Everything that you need to know about traveling in the Philippines is here. From various destinations, to travel tips, to taking good care of the environment, while enjoying the many beautiful places in the Philippines. Lahat mapapakinggan nyo rito. You can listen to my show Saturdays and Sundays, 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock p.m. Kaya tara na! And join me in the world of traveling in my homeland, the Philippines. For our next guest, I would like to introduce to you one of my best friends from college, who is now the operations manager of Palafox Associates. She is responsible in overseeing the overall operations of the firm, which is a multidisciplinary firm that offers urban planning, site development planning, and engineering. She is also a licensed environmental planner and member of the Philippine Institute of Environmental Planners. She is a UP Manila graduate under the BA Organizational Communications. I would like to welcome Miss Maria Victoria D. Bravo. Hi!
Hi everyone. Hi Anna. Thank you for having me here this afternoon. Okay.
So for our first question, since our show focuses on environmentalism as well as tourism, can you please tell us more on what you do as an environmental planner?
So here in the Philippines, the environmental planning is comprehensive in terms of in planning urban and rural space. So it deals with the harmonious coordination or interaction between the environment and of course the society. In particular for Palafox Associates, we work directly with the local government units in planning their comprehensive land use plan, or sometimes their tourism master plan, as well as including the comprehensive development plan for cities and communities.
So given that you work with LGUs, how do you think does environmental planning relate to the sustainable tourism in the Philippines? As you have discussed, sustainable tourism is being able to take good care of the tourism for the other generations in the Philippines to also enjoy the places in the Philippines.
So one of the things that we do for local government units, especially those that has tourism as one of the main drivers of their economy, is to develop or to help to assist them in developing their tourism master plan. In the Philippines, tourism is really one of the main drivers of growth, and according also to the SDGs, it's also being promoted through the SDGs as main driver also of inclusive growth.
So you've mentioned about SDGs, and based on our previous discussions in other guests, SDGs means the Sustainable Development Goals set by the United Nations that all countries must be able to achieve. Do you think, therefore, that sustainable tourism matter in the Philippines? And why do you think so?
So, sustainable tourism definitely applies to the Philippines since we're promoting or showcasing the beauty of our nature and the hospitality of the locals or the human resource. So, definitely, it's a better opportunity for us to promote sustainable tourism as opposed to something like mass tourism that has proven to be destructive to our nature. Take for example what happened to Boracay. It exceeded its capacity, and then we saw how it affected nature in terms of deterioration and so on.
So you think that Philippine tourism is sustainable enough?
Right now, tourism in the Philippines is it's sustainable in terms of the economic output, but we have to also see what happens on the ground, like how does it really help the local community or the host community that is servicing the tourism industry. So there are some emerging tourism or sustainable tourism areas in the Philippines, in the form of ecotourism, for example. So we see here examples of areas in the Philippines that has been promoting the protection of mangroves, which we see this in Palawan, like in San Vicente. We also see opportunities for ecotourism in like Siargao, where they also have waterfalls and other bodies of water and the beauty of nature.
With what you do, can you please share some of the projects that you've done or are currently doing to promote sustainable tourism in the Philippines?
So we've recently concluded or completed the tourism master plan of Malay. So Malay is the local government unit that covers Boracay Island. So aside from Boracay Island, it has several barangays in the mainland, including Caticlan. So in terms of sustainable tourism, the main goal for that project is to bring in to complete the tourism value chain of Malay, so that it's not just Boracay. We want to bring the tourism to the mainland as well, because they have several tourism destinations there. Like they also have a beach. There's waterfalls also, and then there's cultural tourism also, like the indigenous people in the mainland. They have live museum. So going back to the tourism value chain, it's important for a community to have a complete set, because it involves, for example, where the food will come from, like agriculture. So it's important to develop the local agriculture. And then transportation also. So we know there are a lot of people involved in the transportation sector as well. So we need to develop that in a sustainable manner. And also, when it comes to Boracay, it's we also planned for it to be to hold what its carrying capacity. So we first identified what is the carrying capacity of Boracay, and that's what we recommended also to the local government. So now what they're doing there is that you cannot go there without a booking in a hotel, because that's how they will manage the visitor count inside Boracay. And then another project that we did is the Siargao. It's ongoing right now. It's also a tourism master plan, and it involves around 8 municipalities in Siargao. So right now, because of the influx of tourism, there are challenges in terms of food, because there's also a local population there that also needs food. But then again, they're competing also with the tourists. And also, Siargao is a protected area. It's already part of it's a national law that protects the area. So it's a very limited development. So what we wanted to do is to preserve the environment, and then maintain the local culture of the Siargao nuns, because we don't want them to be isolated or forgotten just because of tourism activities.
So we've already established that what happened in Boracay before it was closed may also happen in Siargao. What do you think are the other hindrances or challenges that sustainable tourism in the Philippines has?
When we talk about sustainable tourism, we have to look at the overall we have to take into full account the social, economic, and environmental aspects. So in terms of their hindrances, it could also be divided into those categories. For example, in terms of social or the people, we have one of the challenges, of course, is to engage the local community. So it's in the Philippines, it's not usual practice to really involve the local communities in planning. Although now we see more and more the benefit of that in terms of getting their inputs in the plans as well. So it's very important to engage also the stakeholders because they will be the ones affected by any kind of tourism in their areas. So they are involved in maybe tour guide activities, in hosting like Airbnb, and what they would need, or one of the challenges that we would need for sustainable tourism in the Philippines is training, organizational development as well. Although our people are most of our people are hospitable, they still need to be trained in terms of taking care of the environment as part of the tourism activity. Another hindrance could be the continuity of implementation, because as we all know, our local government, the officials have 3-year term, or 3 years for every term they have. So implementation from one official to another might not be consistent. And then another is adherence to the plan. So sometimes, when you have a plan, there are some people or some developers who can work their way around that also. So you need to have a very strong political will from the local government as well when it comes to implementation. Lastly, for the hindrance, I think it would be a challenge for developers or investors as well to strike a balance between profitability and preserving the environment.
So with all of the hindrances that you have mentioned as well as the challenges, can you cite some examples here in the Philippines maybe of those institutions, organizations who really adhere to a plan for sustainable tourism?
There are some resorts that we can see have potential already or are doing the work for sustainable tourism already. For example, El Nido Resort in Palawan. So one of their tenets for sustainable tourism is organizational development. So they really involve their employees in taking care of the environment. They included that in their processes as well. For example, they have their own material recoveries facility. They also have their own composting. And then in terms of food waste, they also manage that. For example, their restaurant, if there's any food left over, they also give that away to the local community. And then they have educational programs for their guests as well. So they teach the guests how to protect the environment, and basically even in their hotel activities, like for example the laundry of the sheets, so they, and then the water conservation, so they have different programs for that as well.
So it's really good to know that the El Nido Resort really adhere to a plan that would help the environment. How about for international tourism? Can you name one of the places or resorts that would really adhere to such a plan as well?
For other countries, not necessarily a resort, but one that is a good example of sustainable tourism is Bhutan. So they implemented ways in order to preserve their culture. So one of those is that you can't really just go to Bhutan. So first you have to apply for visa, and then you have to pre-book everything from where you are. Like you have to pre-book everything from the Philippines, your tour activities, your hotel, before you get approved to go to such places. In that way, the government will be able to track how many visitors it can cater to every day, and then they can give better quality service to those who are going to their country for tourism.
So what can you advise travelers or even non-travelers on how they can or how we can promote sustainable tourism in the Philippines?
As travelers, we have to be more mindful of our own personal activities. It can be small things like not using single-use plastics, especially when you're on the beach, or even when you're smoking on the beach. Don't just throw the cigarette butts on the sand. You can keep that inside a bottle, or bring it with you until you find a proper waste disposal. And you can also bring your own water bottles when you go to tourist destinations, so that you don't have to buy plastic bottles for drinking. We also, in some of the areas we work with, like Siargao, we also advise the tourists, like before you leave the destination, you can somehow bring the garbage with you back to your area, because some islands like that, they don't have the capacity really to segregate or to handle their own solid waste. Other things, maybe as travelers, you can also research establishments that adhere to sustainable tourism standards, so we can support the local community as well. So if you can also stay in local, hosted by local communities like Airbnbs, so that you can also be immersed in the daily lives of the host community.
Given the current trends, challenges, and hindrances that you've mentioned regarding sustainable tourism in the Philippines, how do you see the future of Philippine tourism maybe 10 or 20 years from now?
So in general, I think tourism in the Philippines will still be a major economic activity, and will continue. I mean, its positive results will continue in the coming years. It's just that the tourism trends will probably change in terms of what kind of tourists we will be attracting, or how we will be able to sustain the current demand. So, for example, what we're seeing now in terms of activities, more and more people are buying into experiences rather than souvenirs or things. So it's a positive sign, because people want to experience the local community more. So it addresses a different need, especially for, I think this applies particularly to the younger crowd also, and in terms of nationality, more of the European crowd as well. So they want to experience local culture more. In addition, so since we had the Boracay issue, I think people are more aware of the effects of mass tourism in the country, and so I'd like to hope that the future of tourism in the Philippines would be more sustainable, and one form of that is ecotourism, or tourism that is centered on the protection of the environment.
Thank you so much, Abby, for being here today. From our interview, I learned three important things. Number one is just be a responsible tourist. Second is that tourism is not just about profit, but it is also about the love for the environment, the people, and the culture. Lastly, the local and the national government is essential in effectively implementing environmental policies. So, Abby, do you have last words to tell our listeners?
Thank you again for having me today. And if you want to know more about our work, you can also visit our website, palafoxassociates.com.